Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring a fascinating alternative to what is arguably the most famous love story in sitcom history. I mean, for 10 unforgettable seasons, audiences around the world were totally captivated by the emotional backbone of Friends, the romance between Ross and Rachel. It literally defined an entire era of television. But today, we're going to look at their story through a completely different lens.
We all know the classic ending, right? Rachel gets off the plane, Ross smiles, the music swells, and the whole story comes full circle. It's the ultimate happy ending. But I kind of want to pull the rug out from under that iconic television moment for a second. What if, after 10 years of breakups, reconciliations, and crazy misunderstandings, they simply walked away from each other forever? What if she actually stayed on the plane? I know, it sounds crazy at first, but as we'll see, this counterfactual point of divergence might have provided an ending that was not only far more realistic, but perhaps even more meaningful. Okay, let's dive into this timeline. Just look at the absolute chaos of the roller coaster these two went on. Their story begins way back with Ross's high school crush, officially sparking when Rachel literally runs into Central Park in a wedding dress looking for a fresh start, and Ross immediately sees a second chance. From that exact moment, it's a whirlwind. The dating, the infamous "we were on a break" argument, a completely random Vegas wedding, having a daughter together. Through all the madness, they just kept finding their way back to each other, right up to that finale. By the end, we all expected one thing: Ross and Rachel together. But let's actually look at what staying on that plane meant for Rachel's timeline. Section 1. Rachel's point of divergence. So imagine Rachel actually arriving in Paris. Instead of giving up the career opportunity of a lifetime, she fully embraces it. If you think about it, throughout the entire run of the series, her character arc is really defined by tremendous personal growth. She starts out completely dependent on her family, running away from a wedding, and painstakingly builds herself into a highly successful fashion executive. The Paris job wasn't just another gig. It represented absolutely everything she had worked for since that very first episode. If she takes that job and stays in Paris, her story reaches a completely different kind of conclusion. It becomes a finale centered on personal achievement, not romance. It officially rewards her years of struggling to prove herself professionally, making Paris the ultimate, well-earned reward for her decade-long journey.
Section 2. Ross letting go.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is, if Rachel goes to Paris, Ross remaining in New York might not have been a tragedy at all. Ross spent much of the series searching for stability. While he obviously loved Rachel deeply, he had incredibly realistic, concrete responsibilities tying him down like anchors to New York. His son, Ben, lived there. His established work as a paleontologist was there. His entire support system, his friends, his sister, they were all there. He couldn't just uproot his life and chase Rachel to another continent.
And because he couldn't just follow her, Ross staying behind forces him to learn this really profound lesson. Loving someone doesn't always mean ending up with them. Think about how tremendous that step in personal growth would be for Ross. This is a character who historically struggled with jealousy. Well, struggled to let go of relationships in general. Actually coming to this realization would have been a massive, mature milestone for him.
Section 3. A mature kind of love.
And this brilliantly illustrates a great point. Would they have remained friends? Well, the source material strongly suggests yes. Just like Monica and Richard or Joey and Rachel, relationships can evolve. They shared something far deeper than just romance. They shared history. They literally grew up together. They shared their daughter Emma. And they were permanently bonded by family ties through Monica. So even if the romance disappeared, those foundational connections absolutely wouldn't. A future where Ross and Rachel successfully co-parent Emma while pursuing separate, fulfilling lives, that would have presented a remarkably mature, modern version of love that we almost never see in sitcoms.
Section 4. The reality of incompatibility. Okay, what if Ross and Rachel simply weren't meant to be together? It sounds strange to say out loud because, let's be honest, the show spent years conditioning us to believe otherwise. But looking at their core priorities, Ross acting as the anchor, wanting certainty and security, while Rachel is the hot air balloon, actively seeking independence and self-discovery, you see their biggest conflicts didn't come from just bad luck or wacky sitcom misunderstandings. Their arguments stemmed from genuine, deep-seated incompatibilities. Which brings us to a hard, honest truth. Two people can love each other deeply and still really struggle to build a lasting relationship. That's a reality many of you probably understand from your own life experiences. An alternate finale where Ross and Rachel chose separate paths wouldn't necessarily be a sad ending. It would simply be an honest reflection of how real life and real relationships actually work.
Section 5. Destiny versus personal growth. Now, of course, we have to acknowledge why the writers gave fans the original ending. Friends was, at its core, a highly optimistic show. It celebrated friendship, loyalty, and the uplifting belief that people can find happiness together. The final airport scene delivered the emotional closure millions of fans were desperate for. It was all about destiny and getting what we want. But, alternate endings often reveal something fascinating about the stories we love. This alternate ending shifts the narrative weight entirely. It becomes about growth. It's about becoming who we're meant to be. If Rachel had stayed in Paris, her happiness comes from achieving her lifelong dreams. If Ross had let her go, his happiness comes from finally accepting change.
And perhaps that's exactly why this question remains so fascinating decades later. There's no single correct answer. Some fans will always believe Ross and Rachel were absolute soulmates, while others firmly believe they were better apart. The fact that we're still debating it today just proves the undeniable power and impact of their unforgettable storyline. They gave the show its most memorable moments, and honestly, they continue to spark conversation.
So now I'm passing the question to you. If Rachel had stayed on that plane, taken the job, and started a new life in Paris, would it have been the better ending? Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed exploring this what-if scenario, please like this explainer, subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite topics, and stick around for our next explainer. Because sometimes the stories that never happened are just as interesting as the ones that did. Thanks for joining me.